Oh, hi guys, welcome to the latest episode of Cricket Draft Insight. I just thought I'd post a video sharing my World Cup squad with you. Obviously, the World Cup kicks off tomorrow. Cricket Draft game is already live. You can compile your squad. Looks like we're heading towards about 4,000 users at the moment, which is really encouraging. But yeah, my squad. So I've currently got a batting lineup of Fakhar Zaman, David Malan, and Ibrahim Zadran. So Zaman, Malan, Zadran. I haven't picked that batting lineup just because it rhymes. Of course, that is beautiful. Um, I'm optimistic these batters could actually score some runs. Now, there's some debate about Fakhar Zaman's place. Obviously, we can potentially make some changes. It's a little awkward with the toss times and work, so we'll see. But Fakhar Zaman, he's a particularly destructive batter, and he's not in that many squads at the moment. And I've tried to, as I mentioned before, tried to have representation from all the teams. So in my 11, I think I've got 9 teams represented because I've got Netherlands players are actually on the bench, but we'll come to that. So Fakhar Zaman and David Malan. Now David Malan, when I watched David Malan, obviously he's known to do well in Australia. Really frustrates me he didn't succeed as a test batter. The last Australia tour, he made a few scores and then he dried up. And what I was reading in an interview, he really sort of wanted to get home from that tour. He's a high quality batter. He tends to be quite good, I think, like outside off stump when the ball's coming onto him. And though I love my cricket, I'm really useless at describing like shots and field placings, but also taking on sort of bowlers in front of the wicket over that way. But in the spin environments of India, is the ball going to come on as much, bounce as much? But I think some of their pitches are maybe a bit lusher than we think. But hopefully he can maintain that form that he's displayed, recently against New Zealand in England. And then Ibrahim Zadran, one of many young Afghanistan batters who's got some pretty impressive stats. Certainly domestic level, a lot of their batters have thrived. He's averaging around 50. It's not a massive sample size. I'm not quite sure all the nations that he's played against, but he's averaging 50. Obviously, Ramanullah Gabaz is one that a lot of people are going to go for. He did score 100 in the warm-up game. Typically, it was Zadran who missed out. But yeah, cool. Malan, Zaman, Zadran. Zadran, Malan, Zaman, Zadran, Malan. Whatever order you want. So yeah, that's my batting lineup, and I'm sure it's convinced you that it's going to do well. Onto my all-rounders. I try to avoid kicking my brand new camera stand. Glenn Maxwell, I've gone for as captain. Glenn Maxwell is one of those players, sort of A-list, but maybe still sort of an alternative captaincy choice. Obviously, Australia have not selected Ashton Agar, who's got better numbers than I thought he had, to be honest with you. I maybe shouldn't digress talking about Ashton Agar. I've seen some very poor fielding performances from him. I've watched a bit of the Big Bash. So they've got Adam Zampa, leg spinner, and Glenn Maxwell is obviously the off spinner. So I'm kind of thinking Glenn Maxwell's going to bowl off spin, take some wickets. And actually, I don't expect consistency with the bat from Glenn Maxwell. And obviously, he hasn't played much until recently. He scored some runs in the warm-up game. But I kind of figure the batting is the bonus. Before, you probably think the batting and bowling's a bonus. And now I figure I expect him to bowl and pick up a few wickets. And then if he really delivers with the bat, then that'll be magnificent. Mitchell Santner is also in there. I like my white ball, slow left armers. I'm not saying Mitchell Santner, he sort of cries out to me. But again, going for that, trying to have representation from every team. Santner and then my wicketkeeper, who I'll come to, were the ones that were kind of to rejig, fill in the gaps a bit. So Mitchell Santner can bat a bit. I don't think he's known to be the most destructive batter. New Zealand have got a decent batting lineup. Hopefully in 50 overs, there could still be the opportunity for Santner to, not have to just sort of tee off, construct an innings. Although obviously the value in scoring runs quickly, and hopefully he'll bowl plenty of overs, reasonable fielder as well, I think too. Mahedi Hassan Miraz. Hopefully I picked the correct Mahedi Hassan, because there's another one, isn't there? Mahedi Hassan Miraz. I think he actually has a couple of one-day hundreds. I was pleasantly surprised by his batting stats. His bowling recently, he's been taking 1 for 40 odd. He's not been taking a bucket load of wickets, but he should bowl maybe now. Maybe now the wickets will come, come back to. I think he scored runs against England in the warm-up game. So, he's one of many Bangladesh players, quite young, but who've gained a lot of experience now as they've, evolved as a, genuine cricket force from being, the whipping boys a few years ago. And then my other all-rounder is Marco Jansen, left armer, reasonably quick bowler. And if he scores runs, he's going to score them quickly. And he's going to hit boundaries. He's not going to be knocking it about. So he's one that I'm really excited by. So yeah, Maxwell, Santner, Hassan Miraz, and Janssen in the all-rounder category. In the wicketkeeper category, I've got Kusal Mendis, who was one of those slightly semi-accidental selections, but like I say, he's trying to get the balance right in terms of having a player from every team. He's what I've ended up with. They have a few wicket-keeping options, I think, Sri Lanka, but I think Mendis is keeping wickets, scored some runs in the warm-up game. Hopefully some of my players aren't using up all their form in the warm-up games. So he's in the wicket-keeper slot, and I'll come to my sub-wicket-keeper in a minute. Yeah, then on the bowling front, a good old slow left armer, Keshav Maharaj. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think he's played that many one-days. I think he was supposed to play for Middlesex this year and he got injured. I think he should be pretty steady away, and I'm optimistic take some wickets. And hopefully they've got a nice pace and spin mix. I've then got Mohammad Siraj and Jasprit Bumrah, who are obviously both Indian pacers. Now, we spoke in the One Day Cup about, obviously that's two bowlers on the same team if it rains, and there has been a lot of rain around. But the way the game is set up, like I've got a bit of money to play with, so as long as we've got subs, and you could even bring in subs, the games are day after day. So hopefully you can manage it, even if India get rained off in the first game. Obviously, help if you can get 2 phone at the toss, blah, blah, blah. Not sure that'll always be the case in this competition for me. So I need to have sort of relevant subs. So on the subject of subs, is it pronounced Sibrand Engelbrecht? Tweeted about him, or posted about him. 35 years old, uncapped. He's from South Africa. Got a fine record in South Africa, but so do quite a few people. And I know they've had different structures, I think, where they have like a second tier, although we have a second division in the county championship. Good figures. I thought it was going to be like a part-time bowling option, but I think he actually has some issues with his action. So he's in as a batter, and then I think Netherlands' second warm-up game was rained off. Would have been interesting to see if he played and scored any runs, because I guess it is debatable whether he's going to start. But he's the cheapest player in the game, and sort of random one that excites me. But I also have Mushfiqur Rahim on the bench, so wicket-keeper batter who should play. So sort of covers me in a couple of areas. A couple of areas there on the batting and wicket-keeping front. Who else have I got? Oh, another one. I'm going to mispronounce horribly. I haven't even written his first name down. Is it Dinuf Welalaga, the Sri Lankan spinner? Because obviously I wanted Tikshana, and typically I've taken him out and he'll now play and do really well. But there's no Hasaranga. They've got Tikshana, but he is an injury out. I think they're thinking, is it hamstring, groin, hamstring? It was worse than they thought. So they're hoping he's going to be fit. But obviously somebody's got a ball spin for Sri Lanka. So Welalaga is in my squad. He's a popular one because he's quite cheapish, really. And then I've got Paul van Meekeren, so another Dutch representative, a pace bowler. Did well in the One Day Cup for Gloucester. I think he's been released. Did well in the One Day Cup. Well, he took wickets, but he tended to be a bit expensive. But that's where I stand at the moment. I have had that set in stone for a few days. I picked a team, and it just didn't feel right. So I started again, and I ended up with 6 or 7, might be the same players, and then just some fiddling around that. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah, there's 1 or 2 big players. There's 1 or 2 other players that, I should have gone for. But I don't want to be, when I'm playing these games now, I don't want to be kicking myself because I left out so-and-so or I didn't pick so-and-so. If Engelbrecht is on the bench and he scores 100 and my batters don't, fine. Tom Laws, Josh DeCares in the county championship game. So that is my team. Thank you very much for sharing some of your teams. This video's already gone on far longer than was my intention, so I won't bore you anymore. Enjoy the game. Hopefully we get north of 4,000 users and people discovering the game. It'll be really immersive and exciting for everyone. Thank you once again. How's that?